and I would like to welcome you all to the tobacco treatment best practices session. We are very lucky to be joined by members from the California Quits, and I will go ahead and let themselves introduce themselves and everything like that. So I'm going to hand it off to you all right away.
Thank you, Alex. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. Your line should be muted just to avoid some background noise. And then if you can go ahead and enter your name and organization in the chat box, that would be wonderful, just so we can see who all is in the room with us today. And then also, please feel free to use the chat box for any questions or comments you have during our presentation. We'll try to answer them during the presentation if we see them come up. And then if we don't get to them, we'll definitely have enough time towards the end to be able to do that as well. But feel free to, we're open to keeping this conversational. So if you have questions and we're able to answer them right then and there, that works for us too. And then also, I just wanted to let you know that we do have an evaluation for you to complete at the end of our presentation today. Your feedback is valuable. You also can have the opportunity to enter into a raffle for a $50 Amazon gift card if you complete your evaluation for today. So with that, I'll go ahead and get started with just a little bit more introduction. So my name is Maureen Sharma. I'm a certified tobacco treatment specialist and a health system coordinator with California Quits team. California Quits is a 5-year project funded by the California Tobacco Control Program. And we work with safety net health systems statewide to implement tobacco treatment best practices. And we provide technical assistance, trainings, and also host a tobacco learning collaborative. So also with me today, I have my colleague.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Shannon Haggett. I am with the California Quits Project, and similarly, as Maureen, I'm one of the health systems coordinator. In my background, I've been in tobacco prevention for about 5 years, providing tobacco treatment as well as working with health systems previously in Alaska to integrate best practices. So I'm happy to be here to present with you all today.
And so today's topic, like Alex mentioned, is going to be on tobacco treatment best practices and how campus-based health centers can support students in quitting as well. So the agenda items for today is going to be talking about integrating Ask, Advise, Refer, tobacco cessation supports such as the California Smokers Helpline, and then we'll also have some additional resources that we hope will be helpful to you.
So just getting started, what can college-based health centers and providers do to integrate tobacco treatment services? Next. So one of the first steps is to integrate the 5 A's, or Ask, Advise, Refer. And the 5 A's is really the gold standard for tobacco treatment. And make sure that you ask about tobacco use and exposure, ideally at every visit. Advise tobacco users to quit, assess their readiness or willingness to make a quit attempt, assist with the quit attempt by either providing counseling and or medications, and then arrange for follow-up care. We do understand that clinics and providers have limited time or resources. So instead of the 5 A's, providers can conduct Ask, Advise, Refer. And if you click Ask, Advise, Refer, be either to the California Smokers Helpline, or if you're joining us from a different state, each state should have their own dedicated helpline as well. We find that it's also helpful to draw out the current workflow if you are working in a health clinic, and really decide if any improvements need to be made to the workflow. I'm a visual person, and so putting the workflow into this format really helps me identify the steps and the role of staff throughout the Ask, Advise, Refer process, and also asking or just knowing whether or not the health center does have a tobacco screening and referral policy in place. We do have sample policy templates that you can customize to fit your health center's needs, along with workflow templates to download that are located on our website. So we really try to incorporate putting a policy into place and also looking at your referral, Ask Advise referral flow for your clinic. So now the ask portion, just going through some sample scripting. Make sure that you ask, have you ever used tobacco products, including vapes? Most of the assessments that we've seen ask, have you used any tobacco products within the past 30 days? And this question might not get the accurate information. So let's say if someone only smokes in social settings or they smoked in the past and they're trying to quit, you'll want to ask about ever use and then asking, do you currently use tobacco products? And then also being more specific about the tobacco products and including language that's used like vapes, pens, mods, since young adults may not associate their vape use as tobacco product or smoking. And if vaping, asking about what they're putting in the device, whether it's nicotine, cannabis, or both. And then we also need to be mindful to ask and offer help for those in the household. So like a roommate who may expose the individual to secondhand smoke or aerosol. And then going into the advise section, just keep it brief and short. The best thing for your health is to be smoke and tobacco free. There are no safe tobacco products. And again, even secondhand aerosol exposure from e-cigarettes and vaping devices contain harmful chemicals that are known to cause negative health effects. Next slide. And we also thought we'd share information about smoking and contraceptives. Since students may be coming in to seek contraceptive counseling, there are studies that show women who smoke and use contraceptives that contain estrogen have an increased risk in blood clots, adverse cardiovascular events, and stroke. They also experience more irregular bleeding, and even for women who smoke less than a pack a day. There are estrogen-free contraceptives for those who might not be ready to quit using tobacco, and they include Nexplanon, the IUD, Depo injection, and progestin-only pills. And in addition to contraceptives, we also want to include that smoking and tobacco use impacts both estrogen and testosterone therapy. So it's important that we ask again, about tobacco use during each visit, about ever use and current use. And We Breathe is the LGBTQ statewide coordinating center, and they provide a bunch of great resources and additional information around tobacco and its impacts to the LGBTQ community.
And so when it comes to your role, did you know that studies show that health professionals' advice doubles the chances of someone quitting? It's really important to just recognize that your advice does matter and does make a difference for a lot of folks. And then we also know that there's an increase in patient satisfaction that we see because patients feel cared for when they are asked about their tobacco use. And then we also wanted to share some data from the California Smokers Helpline, which showed that when patients only received materials regarding tobacco treatment and support, they only received about 2 to 3% patients that actually called the helpline to get the help. However, when referrals were submitted to the helpline, about 40% of the individuals agreed to the service. So this is an example of a proactive referral where the health professional advises the individual and then puts in a referral so that way the helpline is reaching out to the individual for the treatment plan and moving forward. And again, there's just a higher engagement rate. So just some information that we wanted to share about that. And then what else do we know about people that are looking, that use tobacco products and their quitting behavior? think this is some really good statistics to know as well. Studies show that about 66% of adult smokers would like to quit, and about 56% of smokers will try to quit each year. So as a healthcare professional, this is encouraging to know that most people want to quit, and many, more than half, probably have already tried to quit. Our role really is to provide them resources and provide them with a treatment plan that's going to work best for them. And then also just being mindful that it may take some studies show that it can take up to 8 to 12 quit attempts before someone is successful. So relapse is part of this journey for a lot of folks, and that needs to be just kind of in our awareness, I feel like. So that way, when we see somebody having a relapse, it's just understanding that, we need to get them back on a treatment plan that's going to work. And also encouraging people that, every quit attempt is a success, no matter how short that tobacco-free time was for them. So going a little bit more about why tobacco addiction is difficult and why it can take people multiple attempts. I feel like this slide kind of does justice to that a little bit. So it's really important to understand that tobacco addiction is a two-part problem. One part of this addiction is the physiological part, where the brain becomes addicted to the nicotine. And when the brain does not receive the nicotine, the person actually goes through withdrawals. So studies actually show that there's actually about a 98% relapse chances within the first week for a person, especially if they're trying to quit without any medication. So when trying to help someone with this addiction, medication for cessation is the treatment plan. So that way we're not having to have somebody kind of white knuckle through their cravings, and the medication also helps ease with those withdrawal symptoms, which we'll talk about in the next slide. And then there's also the other part of the tobacco addiction is the behavioral component. So for example, a person wakes up in the morning, has their cup of coffee and their cigarette. Or when a person is feeling stressed, lonely, bored, or even if they're just trying to reward themselves, they typically will go to their tobacco product as a way of coping. So the behavioral component can be treated through behavioral change programs, such as individual counseling, group cessation programs, or support from quit lines, such as the California Smokers Helpline, which we'll talk a little bit about as well. But the bottom line is that when we are helping somebody, it is important that we address both of these components to increase their chances of being actually successful. So this slide here has a list of withdrawal symptoms a person can experience when they abruptly stop, smoking or using tobacco products, or kind of that quitting cold turkey. So a few of them listed here are like frustration, anger, anxiety, depression, and these are just nice ways of saying how somebody may be feeling when they've quit and their body is going through withdrawal. What I wanted to highlight here is that understanding that if a person is coming in and they already have some kind of mental health issues going on, they may be experiencing these symptoms at an even heightened levels. So it's important that we do not let anybody have to white knuckle through these symptoms, and especially if they have mental issues, health issues that they're already dealing with, to provide them additional support and also give them the appropriate medications that they need to be successful. And sometimes that also requires they're taking medication for their mental health to even go back and reassess those meds as well. So I wanted to share kind of briefly about what are some ways of assisting somebody when they're ready to quit with medications. So here are the 7 FDA-approved medications. And we know that by giving medications, or when people use medications, it really doubles their chances of quitting, because it gives them, it alleviates those withdrawal symptoms, but also gives them a boost of confidence when they're having cravings, and how to go about dealing with those as well. So the 7 listed here are the nicotine patches, which are also known as the long-acting medications, because it's released over a 24-hour period. And then there's the nicotine lozenge and gum, which are known as the short-acting, because they provide like a quick, short relief from any cravings that someone's having. And then there's other medications that are available typically by prescription, like the nicotine inhaler, which is used to puff on, and then it gets absorbed in the lining of the mouth and it does not go into the lungs. There's also the nicotine nasal spray, which is again a quick burst of kind of nicotine in the nasal cavities, which kind of helps with that short period of relief with any cravings or withdrawals somebody is having. And then there's also medications like varenicline and bupropion, also known as Chantix or Wellbutrin, that can be helpful to someone. But also just noting here that the U.S. Preventive Services Task Force says that there's inadequate evidence about the benefits of using electronic nicotine devices to achieve cessation for adults. So we do not encourage, using vaping products to try to quit. Talking about vaping products, this slide right here, in the past, in these last couple of years, I feel like we're getting a lot more questions about how to go about dosing for vaping. So if you're kind of interested in that, this slide can be a good reference point for you. Ideally, you want to ask them how many milligrams of nicotine they're using daily, and then considering titrating them with nicotine replacement therapies like a patch or a lozenge. And also just be in the know that teens can also be prescribed the nicotine replacement therapy. Most people may not be aware of how many milligrams of nicotine they're using daily. So the table below kind of gives an idea, if you know what kind of product they're using and how frequently they're using it as well throughout the day, that can kind of give you a rough estimate as well. So as you know, there's a lot that goes into when trying to help somebody with tobacco cessation, helping them quit or getting them on this journey and moving them along, and also when they're dealing with relapses as well. So it's really important that we are mindful of how we engage with our patients, with our individuals that are seeking our help. And so there is another breakout session happening actually right now that is talking specifically about motivational interviewing. So there's more in-depth information in that session. And if you're here joining us today, those slides will be available to you, I believe, sometime next week. So you'll be able to go back to those and gather more in-depth information about motivational interviewing. But for today, we just wanted to share a few key concepts that kind of highlights how to engage with patients. So first and foremost is we encourage, that we meet them where they're at, really. It's really important to be able to not go in and judge them and really understand that most of the time when we are seeing patients, they're probably not coming in, or seeing somebody that needs help, they're probably not setting an appointment with us to talk specifically about their tobacco use. So they're coming in for other reasons. And so it's our responsibility to somehow to find better ways of weaving in the important message of quitting tobacco and how to improve their individual's health. So that's the first thing. And then the other thing is really expressing empathy. Tobacco users may show up as defensive at times. They may seem angry with you at times, or even fearful or trying to avoid the conversation. But what we know is that most of the time what they're really feeling is probably guilt, shame, isolation, feeling alone, having low confidence. So when we approach them with empathy, we connect with their feelings and we let them know that we're not here to judge them, we're not here to shame or guilt them, but we're really here to kind of support them and give them the tools and strategies that they need to quit, especially when they're ready. And then the other thing listed here is it's also great if we can use more open-ended questions, because open-ended questions encourage more meaningful answers from the participant, the individual itself. And that allows us to learn more about what does the individual already know, what are they, what do they need or want? And then we also get to know how are they feeling. And so all of that really helps us with how we can provide them support. And then affirmations are always great to use when you're having a dialogue, because it really provides encouragement and also provides emotional support. And so just to kind of give a little table or with some meaningful dialogues and what open-ended questions kind of look like, or positive dialogues look like. This slide kind of helps with just a few of those examples. So we want to avoid saying something like, do you want to quit? Because that's a yes or no, and it's a really easy way to get out of, wanting, if you're trying to avoid to have that conversation, to, shut that door immediately. So instead of saying that, you can ask somebody, what are your thoughts about quitting? And then if you're seeing somebody and they started smoking again, avoid saying something along the lines like, you started smoking again? That can bring shame or guilt on them. So instead of saying that, you can say something like, don't worry, slips, relapse, that happens, that can happen to anyone. It does take many quit attempts to be fully smoke-free or tobacco-free. Don't give up. We're here to help. And then you're able to then go on to the next step, which is, what led to this relapse, and then being able to provide them with the support that they truly need. So just some examples right here. Okay, so we're just gonna take a little pause from everything that we're sharing with you and just wanna have a little engagement with you. So we have a question up on the screen. What is the two-part solution to treating nicotine addiction? And I can't see the
chat.
Can you see that? Yeah.
I have eyes on chat too. So
okay, cool, Alex. Yeah.
So feel free if you would like to share in there, or if you want to raise your hand. We have one answer already of nicotine replacement therapy and pills, changing psychological response and behavior response.
Wonderful. Yeah. Great
NRT
response.
and counseling.
Yep. Perfect. Okay. So one more question for you guys. Name 2 FDA approved cessation medications. So we shared 7. Can you guys share 2?
We have patches and gum. Chantix.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Nicotine and Wellbutrin.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah. So everybody's listening, and great answers out there as well. So yes, the patch, gum, lozenge, nasal spray, inhaler, Wellbutrin, Chantix are also the 7 medications that we talked about so far. Okay.
Now, just going into referral to tobacco treatment program or resources. Next. So referring patients, again, can be a quick, the California Smokers Helpline can help you with a free plan to quit smoking or vaping. We can submit a referral and they will give you a call. Or if you would rather receive a text message, you can text quit vaping to 66819. We understand that youth may not be into the telephone counseling, so they do have texting options, and there are additional texting programs out there, and we'll go over some of those resources in a bit. And for those who haven't heard about the helpline is California's free statewide cessation program that offers services in 5 languages, so English, Spanish, Korean, Chinese, and Vietnamese with trained counselors. They are located in UC San Diego, if you can go back. And the current helpline, is currently offering 2-week free 2-week NRT patch starter kits for people who do smoke. Unfortunately, it's not offered for those who vape since there's no dosing protocol approved at the helpline. And that offer is good through April 2021, and that's funded by a grant. And then they also have the first 5 free NRT offer, and that's for those individuals who live with a child under 5 or under, or who may also be pregnant. And then the Asian languages, they also offer free NRT. And then some counties do have their own NRT promotion. So San Francisco and Alameda County, they pay the helpline through non-CTCP funds. So there are some resources out there for free NRT. It's just knowing where to go and where to look for those offers. And then we also recommend providing individuals with additional information, what to expect once a referral has been made. So the helpline will call within 2 to 5 business days after a referral has been submitted. The first call is an initial intake that may take up to 30 minutes, where they will assess the individual's readiness to quit, help set up a quit date and plan, and provide information around medications and offer resources. They also provide up to 4 follow-up calls. Next slide. And for quick referrals set up to the helpline, clinics and organizations can set up a web-based referral system, or depending on the type of electronic medical record, e-referrals can be set up as well. So if you're with a student health center, it would be interesting to know what type of EMR you utilize. So if you can put that in the chat feature, that would be great. And anyone can submit the web-based referral, so it doesn't have to be an MD or medical provider. It can be a referral coordinator or a student resource officer. And so once the clinic is registered, all you have to do is search and select your clinic or organization and enter the referral information. Next slide. So here's a screenshot of the web-based referral form. The top portion is optional provider information. And then this screenshot is the patient information that is required. So the name, gender they identify as, date of birth, the good contact information, their preferred language, and finally, just check that the patient has given consent to be contacted. And here are additional helpline resources. So again, they offer the free telephone counseling, online chat. They also have the texting program, as well as mobile apps.
And so just to kind of go over some additional resources that are also available, we're kind of getting close to our wrap-up slides here. So here's the vaping cessation apps and text programs that are available. So this is Quit app, and Text is an app that has activities to help someone quit vaping or using other tobacco products. They can also speak with the counselor 24/7. The Smoke-Free Text for Teens is a resource for teens that offers advice, support, quit support, motivations to remain tobacco-free as well. The Quit Start app is an app that helps someone track their quitting progress, and also gives rewards and incentives like earning badges. They also receive tips on how to manage tough days, and there's also games that they can play to kind of distract themselves when they're having a craving as well. And then, as mentioned, there's the California Smokers Helpline. They have a website and also a telephone helpline and apps created for teens to quit vaping as well. So some resources available to you. And then additional vaping cessation resources that may be helpful to you are the Stanford Medicine Tobacco Prevention Toolkit. Their curriculum overview has activities that you can go through and use. They have crash courses available that you could go through as well. There's discussion guides, quizzes available that you can utilize, overview of PowerPoints and specific curriculums that you can use. And then there's this, CDC has their Youth Engagement in Tobacco Prevention and Control guide. And it shares about how to implement youth engagement and efforts and what youth can work on as well. And then the American Lung Association has educational materials for teens, parents, and educators. They also have a conversation guide that can be very helpful to those that are unsure about how to even start a conversation about vaping. And then our team also has a healthcare systems toolkit available to you as well. So the toolkit is linked to the slides. So some of the topics that are covered in our toolkit is the Ask, Advise, Refer. So if you're interested in more about that, you can get more information on there. There's also about policies, procedures, referral systems, medications, and pharmacists as well. And then I wanted to also share that on our website, you can find our brief intervention flyer. So this is a great quick reference flyer that you can have on hand that goes over the Ask, Advise, Refer piece that we talked about today. And it also has the sample scriptings available, so that way you know exactly what to ask and how to go to the next section in terms of providing the person with support. So you can download and print this for convenience as well. And then Shannon mentioned about the free nicotine patches that are available right now at the helpline to all Californians, and then all the other offers that she talked about. But if you visit our website, you can also print out some postcards that can be useful for you to use as well. And then just the last few slides here that have resources about, if you're interested in more information about COVID-19, smoking, vaping, and the risks of that, and understanding more of that, you can get more information here. And in terms of taking action, we encourage you to take advantage of digital media ads that are ready and prepared for you to use on your social media pages or on your digital media platforms or newsletters that you have. So taking advantage of things that are already out there is a great resource as well. And then the pharmacological product guide. This is just more in-depth information about the 7 FDA medications that we went over today. And so if you're interested in understanding more about the dosing or the side effects, this has all of that information on here as well in detail. And then again, the helpline website also has a lot of information that can be very helpful to individuals and also to providers. So they have handouts and also webinar recordings that you may be interested in as well. And that brings us to our last slide and opening it up to the group for any questions or comments that you may have. And just a quick reminder to please complete the evaluation, and then our website is listed on here as well. And if you're interested, you can also join our e-newsletter and receive quarterly newsletters and updates from us as well. And just want to say thank you for taking your time and spending your morning with us. And we hope that you learned something new or something interesting, and hopefully some of the information that was shared you'll be able to use as well. We want to open it up for questions.
Thank you both. Oh, go ahead.
If you could direct me to some resources around how my campus could secure some funding for providing NRTs.
That's a great question, Alex. And do we have your information in the chat box?
Yeah, you do.
Okay, perfect.
And unfortunately, like right now, I'm unaware of where to get funding to purchase NRT. There are the free offers that the helpline does have. Some health centers do bulk orders from the pharmaceutical companies for the NRT. And I don't know if the student centers do have the resources to purchase the NRT, but in terms of where to get free NRT, we're finding that a bit difficult to find those resources, unfortunately. But definitely be on the lookout and share that information with CYAN, and that information can be distributed to everyone.
Awesome. Thank you.
I can also add a little bit to that if you don't mind. So there are a few options that you can still find for national grants and such. And there, if you just Google grants and nicotine replacement therapies, there's one that comes up specifically for CDC, which allows you, it gives you updates of when new ones come up. And those usually come through different forms of resources, such as, I know that there are ones for justice system grants, and there are ones through different health departments and everything. So definitely look on that one and see if you can and get yourself on the list to be able to get updates from that. And those will come up consistently. I see a few that have on there right now that have a application deadline of March. So you might be able to get some within there if you have enough time to within that to get some grant material pulled together.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
For those of you that on the call that are working with the student health system, are you connected to the helpline in any way, either web-based referral or making any types of referrals to the helpline right now?
I can say
So
that we're not, but I think it was good for me to learn that you can make those referrals and the helpline will then reach out to students.
So we do see that Golden West College currently has a grant through the county, through Orange County. So Christine was nice enough to add that into the conversation as well.
Great.
What types of EMR do you guys use? The one that I've heard is the point and click, and I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, that would be great if you can share.
So there's one share that is Pyramid.
Yeah.
I've seen that one a couple times so far. There was a couple direct messages my way that was Pyramid as well.
Pyramid. Do you know if with Pyramid, are you able, is there the capability to put in like outside referrals through direct messaging? Because that's another opportunity where you can connect to the helpline to make that direct e-referral.
I think it's better for me just to talk instead of try to type everything in.
Yeah.
So with Pyramid, we can really customize our intake type of form, and I'm not quite sure if we can link it to the actual the resource for the hotline, because currently right now I'm in charge of all smoking cessations on campus. So right now we have the grant with the County of Orange, and I do a 5-week workshop for whoever's interested in quitting. And then I do the 30, 60, 180 follow up with them. And if they choose to go through the hotline, I can refer them through that way. But we like them to have the 5-week workshop with us first, just so we get that relationship built with the students.
Yeah.
And then if they find that they don't want the relationship anymore, then they'll go through that county if they feel that they need it.
Okay. So Nora, what school-based health system are you with?
I am going to unmute myself. I'm with California State University Northridge.
Okay.
And we do use that, and I have not seen, I think they're trying to work with being able to refer to the outside, but as of now, we're not able to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I actually have a question to follow up with y'all as well. So I know that we work with a lot of campuses that are a little more rural or smaller, and they have small capacity health centers. So what would be a convenient way that you all can think of like getting or how staff and faculty can be kind of that bridge person to make that referral? Like, do you have recommendations of how to make that connection from individuals that aren't in the health center directly?
I would say maybe for a small rural area, if there's an instructor or an advisors, maybe making student advisors aware of the web-based referral system and enrolling their campus. That way, maybe their advisor, if they're talking to to the individual, they can submit a referral. But I think there needs to be like a centralized location, like a centralized system, so that, for me, like creating that workflow or developing a policy to have in place helps with that, and having everyone on board. So having the advisor, someone from the health center, even students, and getting their ideas brought to the table.
So Christina mentioned that she also partners with the Associated Student Body and multiple clubs on campus. That's great, yeah, as well as our student life department. Absolutely. So another, great way to think about it is how can you have multiple opportunities to have this engagement with somebody, so that way that expectation is when they're talking about other parts of their health with these different entities or these different groups at their campus, each entity is still providing them with the same synchronized resource that talks about, hey, quitting is the best thing that you can do, and here's how you can get help. And again, it just goes back to that it does take multiple touches before somebody is actually even ready to take on the offer, let alone try to even make that quit attempt. So the more synchronized the campus can be with one another in terms of passing the message and making it more less daunting for folks to be able to provide that, that can be helpful. And then she also mentioned we have also created a smoke-free task force, so that's wonderful.
And Christina, I'm curious about the courses or the classes that the students take. How is that being conducted right now with COVID and people not being in person?
So all of them, I'm advertising on the college has its own app as well as social media that the students belong to, and the student health center as well when they have their virtual appointments. I also do it through Zoom. So what I do is, because it's a 5-week course, so to speak, is I work with their schedule, and I pick that day and time for the 5 weeks. So that way they check in with me every week, and we go through the curriculum that we've kind of broken down as a process to get them ready to quit and the tools that they'll need to be successful.